I'm Cynthia McFadden at the Courtroom Television Network, and this is a video trial report, a supplement to the April issue of American Lawyer magazine. The rape trial of William Kennedy Smith captured the attention of the nation and was televised live on Court TV in December 1991. In this month's American Lawyer, 4 experienced trial lawyers, Peter Fleming, Jack Littman, Floyd Abrams, and Victoria Tunsing, take a close look at the cross-examination techniques of William Kennedy Smith's lawyer, Roy Black, and prosecutor Moira Lasch. This video is a supplement to the articles they have each written in the new litigation section of this month's issue of the American Lawyer, and you'll want to read their articles before watching the testimony that follows. All 4 agree that there's much to learn by studying Roy Black's cross-examination technique. As Peter Fleming, a veteran defense lawyer, writes, quote, "Roy Black makes it look easy," but so did Joe DiMaggio. On the first day of testimony, Black employed his talents to devastating effect on Anne Mercer, a friend of the alleged victim, Patricia Bowman. In her direct testimony, Mercer had told the jury that late on Good Friday, 1991, she'd been called to the Kennedys' estate. Roy Black's tightly focused questions about what happened next left the witness, in Peter Fleming's words, quote, "at odds with herself."
Good afternoon, Ms. Mercer.
Good afternoon,
My
sir.
name's Roy Black. I represent Mr. Smith.
I'm aware of that.
You say you went to the Kennedy home on the early morning hours of March 30th, is that correct?
Yes.
Your friend says that she was raped, is that right?
Yes.
What she tells you is that she wants her shoes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Several times she was worried about her shoes.
Yes.
So you went into the house, is that correct?
Yes.
Into the house where the rapist is, right?
I guess you could say that, yes.
It's dark in there.
Yes.
You go through the kitchen, right?
Yes.
Into this little hallway.
Yes.
It's dark in this hallway, isn't it?
Right.
You meet up with this man who your friend says is a rapist, isn't that correct?
I was not afraid of him. No, I was not
Well,
afraid
that's
of him.
not my question, Miss Mercer. Do you understand my question? My question is, did you meet this man who your friend says is the alleged rapist
Yes.
in this dark hallway, is that right?
Yes.
And you ask him to you ask the rapist to help you find her shoes, is that correct?
Yes.
And he turns around and goes with you out of the house, is that right?
Yes.
Through the dining room to begin with, is that correct?
Yes.
It's dark in that house, right?
Yes.
You're walking through the dining room with this man, is that correct?
Yes.
The man who's allegedly a rapist, right?
Yes.
You go out the door of the dining room, don't you, into a little patio area
Correct.
with this man who's the alleged rapist, is that right?
That's right.
You go out past the patio and onto the lawn, is that right?
Right.
It's dark out, isn't it?
Right.
With this man who's the alleged rapist.
Yes.
You go across the lawn with him, is that right?
Yes.
Towards the beach.
Yes.
As you go across the lawn, you get to an area where there are hedges and a concrete wall, isn't that right?
Yes.
And you're still with this man who's the alleged rapist, is that right?
Yes.
You get to a dark stairway, isn't that correct?
Yes.
There are no lights in that stairway, is there?
No.
You go down this stairway, right?
Right.
With this man.
Right.
There's a door down at the bottom of the stairway, is that right?
Right.
You and this man who's the alleged rapist go out the door, is that correct?
Right.
Out onto the beach.
Right.
And you then spend several minutes looking for these shoes with this man who's the alleged rapist, is that right?
Right.
Then after a while you say, well, let's forget about looking for the shoes and let's go back.
Right.
Is that correct?
Right.
You and he go towards the door, is that right?
Right.
You enter that doorway.
Right.
It's a dark stairwell.
Right.
In fact, you even told us today he's behind you, is that right?
Right.
Going up the stairs, this man who's alleged to be a rapist is behind you in this dark stairway, is that correct?
Right.
The two of you go up the stairway, isn't that right?
Right.
You get to the top and you start going across the lawn, isn't that correct?
Right.
And you go into the house with him.
Yes.
And you go into this hall or down towards the kitchen again, is that right?
Yes.
Where you meet up with your friends.
Yes.
Now, there's
Black
one thing you
also
forgot to
hammered
tell
on an
us
awkward fact that Mercer had admitted on direct
What I
that
said.
she'd been paid $40,000 to tell her story of what happened that night on the tabloid TV show A Current Affair.
Now, you say that originally a Current Affair started offering you higher amounts. Is that correct?
Yes.
I think you told us $150,000.
Yes.
Is that right? And you say that the National Enquirer offered you $50,000 plus royalties as well. Is that right?
Yes.
And I think you even told us there are other tabloids have offered you money, haven't they?
Yes.
Which other ones?
The Globe, the Inquirer, the Star.
Now, you found out, did you not, that as time went on, the price started dwindling. Isn't that correct?
After the statement was public, yes.
The price for your statement started going down in value. Is that right, Miss Mercer?
Yes, that's correct, sir.
You began getting worried that you weren't going to get enough money for your statement. Isn't that right?
No, not exactly.
Well, you wanted to maximize your profits, didn't you?
No, I did not.
You wanted to make as much money as you could.
If I wanted to make more money, if I wanted to make the most money that I could have, I would have taken the $150,000. I did not take the $150,000.
Well, you didn't take the $150,000 because you had a deal with Patricia Bowman that you wouldn't do it. Isn't that right?
That is not correct, sir. No.
Didn't you and Miss Bowman have a conversation about whether or not you ought to do an interview?
I don't recall that, sir, no.
You do not recall having a conversation with Miss Bowman, is that correct? Is that your testimony here?
Concerning what, sir?
About whether or not you ought to give an interview.
I believe I talked to her about that at one point, yes.
So you did talk with her?
Yes.
And you made a deal with her that you would wait a while before you could cash in on your statement. Isn't that right?
I did not make any deals with Patty. What I do is what I decide to do.
Well, you and Patty had a conversation, didn't you? Your friend Patty.
We might have talked about it, sir, yes.
Well,
but that does not mean that we were collaborating.
Let's hold it. You say we might have talked? Isn't it a fact that you did talk?
Probably, yes.
What? Not probably. Isn't it true that you and Miss Bowman talked about you giving a statement?
Yes.
Was there not an agreement made between the two of you that you would wait a while before you gave your statement?
I do not recall that, no.
You don't recall having a conversation with Miss Bowman where you said that you would wait at least 30 days till giving a statement?
No, I do not remember that.
You don't recall there being a conversation between the two of you waiting until charges were filed for you to give a statement?
I might have said that I would wait, yes.
Because she requested it, isn't that correct?
I believe so, yes.
And so you waited before you gave a statement, isn't that right?
Yes.
And you found out as you were waiting the price was going down, isn't that right?
Yes.
And that's when you struck your deal with the current affair, isn't that correct?
Yes.
And that's when you got your 25 grand.
Right.
And you and Chuck used the money to go to Mexico for 11 days, didn't you?
Right.
And by the way, on this, you've seen the show, have you not? At least the $25,000 show. You've seen that show, haven't you?
Yes, I have, sir.
Do you remember being asked the question from Mr. Dunleavy, if you saw Teddy Kennedy today, what would you like to ask him about that night? Remember that question?
Yes.
Do you remember your response? Are you out of your mind?
I remember that response, yes.
Isn't it a fact, Miss Mercer, that this whole program was created just to embarrass the Kennedy family?
No, it was not.
In fact, your agent and lawyer was interviewed along with you, was he not?
Yes, he was.
And in fact, he made the statement right there that this is the fall of the House of Kennedy. Isn't that right?
Yes, he did say that. That is his opinion. I was very fair to both parties involved when I gave my interview.
But your lawyer, there on your behalf, your agent, who's getting paid part of the percentage of the money you're getting, gets on there with you and says, this is the fall of the House of Kennedy. Isn't that right?
That is his opinion. That is not my opinion, sir. I was fair to both parties involved.
Later, Black highlighted the differences between what Mercer told the police and what she told a current affair. In his essay in The American Lawyer, Jack Lippman says that Black ran a risk here, that the prosecution might call witnesses who could testify that Mercer had told them the same story before she was offered any money. To avoid that, Lippman says Black had to place Mercer's first contact with the tabloid TV show as soon as possible after the alleged assault. Lippman also calls attention to how Black tried to tarnish Patricia Bowman's credibility indirectly by linking the alleged victim to Anne Mercer's willingness to sell her story.
What's the date that you made the deal with the current affair for the $25,000?
I don't recall.
Well, was it in April?
I'm not sure.
Was it in May?
Do you know when that show was on?
Was it in June?
When the show was aired, I must have negotiated 2 weeks prior to the airing of the show.
Well, what month was that?
I would say probably in May.
You're not sure?
I'm not sure.
When did you begin the negotiations for the deal?
They had called me March.
In March?
March.
You sure it's March?
Yes, I'm sure it's March.
I think that Ms. Lasch asked you if your statements today were the same as you told the police back in March and April of 1991. Do you recall that question?
No, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, the prosecutor.
Yes.
Just asked you, are you giving the same statement or the same testimony today that you told the police back on March 30th or in April during these other police statements? You remember that question?
Yes, I do.
And your testimony here is that you're saying the same things today that you said in these police statements. Is that correct?
To the best of my recollection.
All right.
It has been quite some time since I gave my police statements.
But
It
I'm
has
sure,
almost been 9 months.
and you've also been paid $40,000 in the meantime, too.
Yes.
Let me ask you if you recall making the following, by the way, before we do this, you gave tape statements to the police, did you not?
Yes.
In fact, on March 30th, Detective Rigolo came to your home, didn't she?
Yes.
And she brought along a tape recorder, didn't she?
Yes.
And she tape recorded a statement with you, isn't that correct?
Yes.
And this is some, according to your testimony, that's 10 hours after you went to bed. Is that right?
Yes.
You said you went to bed at 6 a.m.
Yes.
That morning? Detective Rigolo, you say, appears at 4 p.m.?
Yes.
This is before you've been offered any money, isn't that correct?
Yes.
This is before you heard from a current affair, right?
Yes.
This is before you ever met Steve Dunleavy of a current affair,
Yes.
isn't that right? Let me ask you if you remember making these statements.
Were you there when Patty left?
Yes.
Okay, and what transpired?
Well, she left with this gentleman, I don't know what his name was. She had been dancing with him, they had met there. And I asked her if she was okay. She said she was fine, she seemed fine. And I said, okay, just as long as you're okay. So she left.
Yeah, did she say anything about needing to take them home? Did she say where they were going?
No, nothing, she just left. I mean, I wasn't gonna, she's an adult, she can take care of herself. She didn't seem drunk. So I said, okay, well, it's her own decision. I've already asked her to make sure she's all right. She said fine, and she left.
Remember making those statements on March 30th, Ms. Mercer?
Yes.
Well, let's take a look at them if we can. On March 30th, you said you don't know what the man's name was who was with your friend Patty. Isn't that correct?
I'm not sure.
Well, let's play it for you again.
I think on thinking...
Don't worry, we'll play it for you again. We don't want you to guess at this.
Okay. Were you there when Patty left?
Yes.
Okay, and what transpired?
Well, she left with this gentleman. I don't know what his name was. She had been dancing with him. They had met there. And I asked her if she was okay. She said she was fine. She seemed fine. And I said, okay, just as long as you're okay. So she left.
Yeah, did she say anything about needing to take them home? Did she say where they were going?
No, nothing. She just left. And I wasn't going to, she's an adult. She can take care of herself. She didn't seem drunk. So I said, okay, well, it's her own decision. I've already asked her to make sure she's all right. She said fine, and she left.
You remember telling Detective Regolo on March 30th, 1991, that you didn't know what the man's name was who your friend Patty left with.
I do not remember saying that, no. Now that you played it back to me, obviously I do remember saying it. But no, I don't remember at that time saying that I did not know who he was.
This is before you received $25,000 for a current affair, isn't that right?
What are you trying to get at here, sir?
Could you please answer my question, Miss Mercer?
Can you restate the question, please?
Certainly. You gave this statement at 4 p.m., you tell us, on March 30th, 1991. This is before you've been contacted by a current affair or all these tabloids, isn't that right?
I also gave another police statement
Ms. Mercer,
before...
my question is did you give this statement before you were contacted by a current affair or any of these tabloids?
I gave 3 other...
Your Honor, can we have
yes,
an
I
order?
did, sir. But I also gave other police statements.
This is before you knew that the Kennedy name could make you a lot of money. Isn't that correct?
No, I was not thinking that at the time.
Of course not. On March 30th, 1991, you weren't thinking that at all, were you?
No, I was not.
In fact, what you say on March 30th is you didn't know the man's name. Isn't that correct, Miss Mercer?
I don't recall saying that.
Did you just hear your voice on tape?
I heard my voice, yes, but I don't recall saying that that day.
Well, were you drunk at 4 p.m. in the afternoon of March 30th?
No, I was not. And it's been a long time. It's been 9 months.
Well, in fact, it was a lot shorter than that until it became William Kennedy Smith. It became William Kennedy Smith when you realized how you could cash in on the Kennedy name. Isn't that right?
That is not true.
You also said on this statement that she said nothing when she left. She just left. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
You just heard it on the tape, didn't you?
Yes, I just heard it on the tape.
Today you tell us that you walked her nicely out of O-Bar, said goodbye to her, and had this conversation about her going to the Kennedy estate. Did you give that testimony today?
Yes, I did. But can I explain myself?
Well, Miss Mercer, my question is, you didn't say that back on March 30th, 1991 on this tape, did you?
No, I did not. Can I explain why?
Yes.
Everything happened so quickly, and when the detective came over to ask me certain questions, I wasn't clear and I wasn't precise on what had happened. It was a very vague statement to the police. Now, after time goes by, okay, and I can think about particularities of that evening, yes, I can be more precise.
Yeah. You can be more precise after you got an agent in New York. Isn't that right?
That is not right.
You also hired a lawyer here in Palm Beach. Isn't that correct?
I believe I have a right to counsel, sir, yes.
I'm not saying you don't. I'm saying you hired a lawyer here in Palm Beach as well, didn't you?
I have a lawyer locally, yes.
And your statement, as you say, has become more precise since the afternoon of March 30th. Isn't that correct?
My memory has been recollected on particularities.
All right. Now, you also said she's an adult.
Yes.
Isn't that right?
I do remember saying that.
Now, you told us today that when you walked with her out of O-Bar, there was no sexual innuendo. You remember that testimony you gave earlier today?
I was asked if there was any sexual innuendo, and I said no, there wasn't.
But on March 30th, you said not only she's an adult, but let me backtrack. On March 30th, you say she's an adult, she can take care of herself. Isn't that correct?
I said that, yes.
And you also said it's her own decision. You remember those words?
Yes, I do.
Prosecutor Moira Lasch
Yes,
had
I
tried
do.
to minimize the damage that Mercer's deal with a current affair might do to the state's case by asking Mercer about it during direct examination. But according to Floyd Abrams, a seasoned trial lawyer, there was another bomb lurking in Mercer's testimony that Lasch failed to defuse when she had the chance.
Now, there's one thing you forgot to tell us in that scenario on direct examination. What you said to this man who's the alleged rapist when you left. You forgot about that, didn't you?
I wasn't asked that, sir.
Didn't you tell him you were sorry?
No, I did not.
Oh, didn't you tell him, Miss Mercer, that you were sorry that you had to meet under these circumstances?
I used those words.
I didn't
yes.
ask you why you used them. I said, did you say you were sorry you had met him under those circumstances?
I did not mean I was sorry.
I didn't ask you what you meant.
Objection, she's not being allowed to answer the question.
Overruled. Please answer the question.
The question is, did you say to this man, I'm sorry we met under these circumstances?
Yes, I said that.
To the man who's supposedly the rapist, is that right?
Yes.
The man who raped your friend, right?
Yes.
Your friend who you say is hysterical, right?
Yes.
You said, I'm sorry we met under these circumstances.
What I said and how
Now,
I said
did
it.
you say, I'm sorry we met under these circumstances?
Yes.
Objection, argumentative, she's not being allowed to answer the question.
Overruled.
Is that what you said, Miss Mercer?
Yes.
During Mercer's second day on the stand, Black went at her again. This time, as Jack Lippman points out in The American Lawyer, Black supplemented his
dark that
questions with a
evening.
prop that
It's
silently
only, I would say,
but persistently mocked the witness by its
a
very
couple
presence.
feet.
Now, you told us yesterday, I believe, on the questioning by the prosecutor, that when you got back to the kitchen after being with Will, you saw Chuck carrying an urn. Is that right?
When I walked through the kitchen, I saw, I believe Patty was carrying the picture frame and notepad. I did not see Chuck with the urn until I was in the parking lot.
So when you were out in the driveway, you saw him with the urn?
I believe it was in the driveway, maybe it was in the car. Either one of those places, I saw him with the urn.
Okay, but your car was in the driveway, wasn't it?
Yes.
Well, we're asking you about it. Let me show you what it looks like. This is the urn that we're talking about, is that
Yes.
you saw that night?
Yes.
Chuck had it, is that correct?
Chuck, yes, had it in his possession.
Was he holding on to it when you saw it?
I believe he was holding on to it.
Okay. And did he put it in the Jeep?
Yes.
And then you got into the Jeep?
Yes.
And the two of you drove home?
Yes.
And he took it out, was he holding it while you were driving?
I don't remember that, no.
Did he take it out of the Jeep and bring it into your home?
Yes.
Where was it placed in your home?
In the living room.
Are you aware that only your fingerprints are found on the urn?
I had read that, and I assume that's because I had given it to the police.
But Chuck's fingerprints are not on the urn, are they?
That is very odd to me.
Do you have any idea why Chuck's prints were not on the urn?
That is very odd to me.
I mean, did anybody clean the urn after it was in your house?
No.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, if you recall these statements from April 5th of your police statement on page 7.
All right. Then he came back from the beach area. He went outside. He came into the kitchen, and you said that Patty and Chuck were in the kitchen. Right. And then what happened?
I ran through the kitchen area, and Patty and I ran out to the driveway.
Was Patty carrying anything?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember Chuck holding anything?
I didn't see him holding anything.
All right.
Now that's Detective Rigolo questioning you on April 5th, is it not?
Yes.
She's a detective on this case?
Yes.
And she questioned you about this urn. Or excuse me, she questioned you as whether or not Chuck was holding anything, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
And you said, I didn't see him holding anything, isn't that right?
I said that at that point when she asked me yes.
That was a lie, wasn't it?
That, I wouldn't call a lie.
It was not true.
I was afraid maybe to answer that question, that she may say that we were stealing.
Well, my question is, Ms. Mercer, when you said, I didn't see Chuck holding anything, that wasn't true, was it?
That is true.
In fact, to be blunt, you were lying, weren't you?
I don't like you to say that to me.
The prosecution also called the complainant, Patricia Bowman. In a roundtable discussion on Court TV following the trial, Starlet Jones, a former assistant district attorney in Brooklyn, who's now a law correspondent for NBC, and Victoria Townsend, a white-collar criminal defense specialist, talked about the kind of rapport a prosecutor ought to have with a witness who says she's been raped, a kind of bond that did not seem to exist between Moira Lasch and Patricia Bowman.
The preparation starts with, as Victoria says, pulling something from this witness. You've got to pull her very essence out, and you've got to share in that essence in front of that jury. I mean, this is the kind of testimony that should take your breath away. It should leave every juror shaken when the woman talks about him tackling her, and then thinking to herself, my God, I don't play that rough. I mean, at that point, you say to yourself, the prosecutor has got to be sitting down on her table and listening and having a conversation with this young woman. And that's the way the preparation should have gone. She should have felt as close to talking to Moira Lasch as you and I are talking right now. She should have felt that they were one person in front of that jury.
And if she's not, if the prosecutor is not responding with her own voice, having some emotion in it, then the jury has to listen to that and think, gee, if it's not bothering her, why should it bother me?
Here's the most striking example of what Jones and Tonsing were talking about.
What happened once you were on the ground?
He had me on the ground, and I was trying to get out from underneath of him because he was crushing me, and he had my arm, and I was yelling, no, stop. And I tried to arch my back to get him off of me, and he slammed me back into the ground, and I got, and then he pushed my dress up, and he raped me. And I thought he was going to kill me.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'6".
How much did you weigh approximately on March 30th?
130 pounds.
Were you able to see the face of the person who was on top of you?
Yes.
And was that the defendant, William Smith?
Yes.
On cross-examination, Patricia Bowman posed a much tougher challenge to Roy Black than Anne Mercer did. But defense specialist Peter Fleming writes in his essay in the current issue of the American Lawyer that Black made important headway in the first half hour of his cross-examination. According to Fleming, it was Black's detailed questions, more than Bowman's answers, that painted a picture of what happened on March 30th, 1991.
When you were talking to Anne earlier in the week, did you talk to anyone else about plans?
Yes, I spoke with Susan Carasy.
Okay. Other than Anne and Susan Carasy, did you discuss plans for Friday night with anyone else?
I don't recall.
You don't recall whether you talked to anyone else?
I know that my plans that night were to meet Anne and Sue and Susie, and that's 9 months ago. It's hard to remember everybody I spoke with 9 months ago.
Okay, but did you call anyone else about arrangements for that, to meet that Friday night? Or earlier in the week I'm talking about.
Like I said, that's 9 months ago. I know I spoke with Anne, and I know I spoke with Susie.
But you don't recall talking to anyone else?
No.
Because it's been 9 months.
Correct, sir.
Did you talk with any men earlier in the week about meeting them on Friday?
I think I've stated that, it's 9 months ago. That's a long time to remember all my telephone calls. So my answer would be, I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm talking about making a date for Friday night, though. That Friday night, that's the question.
I don't know.
Okay, I mean, it's not as if you haven't thought about that Friday night for the last 8 or so months, is it?
In what regard?
Well, you've given numerous police statements about what happened that Friday night, isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
Beginning on March 30th of 1991, isn't that correct?
I know that the day that I went to the sheriff's office is the day I gave a first statement, and
okay.
I think that's March 30th.
Yeah, it's March 30th. And you've discussed this with your lawyers many times, have you not?
Discussed what?
About what happened during that weekend on Friday night or Saturday morning.
Not really.
You've read by the way, you obtained copies of the witness statements in this case, didn't you?
Yes, I do have statements, copies of statements.
Yeah, I mean, when the statements were released, your attorney obtained copies for you, did he not?
Yes, he did.
And supplied copies of those to you?
Yes, he did.
And you've read them, haven't you?
No, I have. There were, like, I don't remember how many thousands of pages there were, and I have not had the time.
You haven't had the time to read them?
The time, nor necessarily the interest. It's a pretty frightening experience what I've been through.
What did you tell us before, though? You've read through the statements.
No, I don't think I said that, sir.
Okay. So when you say that it happened 9 months ago, you've really been thinking about this matter for 9 months, haven't you?
Generally, what I've been thinking about for the past 9 months is how...
What you've been thinking about. I said,
I'm sorry.
Have you been thinking about it for 9 months?
Have I been thinking about what?
About that weekend, March 29th and 30th.
I have tried to remember that weekend.
Okay. While you were trying to remember, were you able to remember any conversations you had earlier that week, the week that ended on March 29th, any conversations with anyone other than Anne Mercer and Susie Carasy about going out on Friday night?
The only thing I can clearly remember from that week is Mr. Smith raping me.
Well, I know you've been prepared to say that to most of the
No,
questions.
sir, I have
But-
not been prepared by anyone.
Okay. What I'm asking you, though, and my question was that do you remember talking to anyone else other than Anne Mercer and Susie Keresy about meeting that Friday night?
No, I do not remember.
Black then took Bowman through the events of the night up until her chance meeting with William Smith at O-Bar. Black asked her about leaving the club to meet a friend, Tony Leott, at another Palm Beach bar.
Did you call him earlier that week and make arrangements for Friday night?
Again, I don't remember.
Well, when you went to O-Bar with Anne Mercer, did you leave O-Bar before leaving at 3 o'clock?
I don't remember doing so.
Do you remember walking out of the bar by yourself and walking down the street to your car?
No, I don't remember doing so.
You remember getting into your car?
I don't remember.
Remember starting it up and driving over to Worth Avenue?
I don't remember.
How do you get from O-Bar on Poinciana Plaza to Worth Avenue?
There are a couple of ways.
How would you do it?
I don't, probably take Coconut Row, which is the road that borders the Poinciana Plaza.
And how many blocks is that?
2.
From O-Bar to Worth Avenue, where Taboo is?
I don't know.
Did you drive over to Worth Avenue that evening?
From O-Bar?
Yes.
I don't remember.
Did you park your car on Worth Avenue?
I don't remember.
Did you go to this bar called Taboo on Worth Avenue?
Again, I don't remember.
You remember walking into Taboo?
I remember seeing Tony. I'm not sure if it was that evening or not.
You remember walking into Taboo on Friday evening?
No, I do not
Saturday
remember.
morning?
I do not remember.
You remember walking in and sitting down with him at the bar?
I do not remember.
You remember meeting a friend of his from Philadelphia who was sitting with him in the bar?
No, I do not remember.
You remember sitting and conversing with him there at the bar?
The only memory, as I stated, I have of Tony is a brief interchange about meeting later, and I'm not sure if that was that evening or not.
As Peter Fleming observes, despite the gaps in the witness's memory, Black portrayed a young woman planning a big night out who changed her mind about Tony Leott when William Kennedy Smith became available. Senator Edward Kennedy's testimony provided an example of how a weak direct examination can open the door to problems on cross. It had been the senator who had suggested to his son Patrick and nephew Will Smith that they go out for a nightcap late on Good Friday 1991. Jack Lippman writes in The American Lawyer that Roy Black probably would not have risked calling Ted Kennedy as a witness for the defense, fearing a cross-examination in which the senator's own character might become an issue. As it happened, Kennedy was called by the prosecution. On direct examination, Prosecutor Lasch allowed the senator to talk about the tragedies his family has suffered over the years, making it possible for Black to revisit that emotional subject on cross.
You've mentioned that that Bill Barry and his family was staying at the home with you over Easter, you and your sister Jane.
Yes.
Can you tell us who Bill Barry is, what his relationship to the family is?
Well, Bill Barry was a former FBI agent who now specializes in security matters. He was probably Gene and Steve's, one of their 2 or 3 best friends. He was one of my brother Bob's very best friend, and he had provided security for my brother Bob in the 1968 campaign, and he was with my brother when he was killed.
Does he have a special relationship with the family?
Very, very special.
In fact, is he not the man who knocked the gun out of Sirhan's hand?
Yes.
You said that that evening you had a sort of an intense conversation with Bill Barry and your sister Jean Smith. What was that intense conversation about?
Well, I think I described it. I described it earlier.
Well, you mentioned the name Steve Smith. What is Steve Smith's, or what was Steve Smith's relationship with Will Smith?
Well, Steve Smith's Will's father. He was very special to me. He was an extra brother, really. We lost a brother in the war. When Jean married Steve, we had another brother. And when Steve was gone, something left all of us when we buried him.
He died in August?
August of 90.
Are you close with your sister Jane?
Yes, we're a very close family.
Since the death of her husband, have you tried to spend more time with her than you normally would have?
Well, I've tried. We spend a lot of time together. I think my sister Pat, who's here, and Eunice have spent a lot of time with Jean. I've tried to. The other members of the family. Ethel has. Jackie has. We're a very close family.
Thank you, Senator.
Later, when prosecutor Moira Lasch got her opportunity to cross-examine Will Smith, she faced one important disadvantage that Roy Black had not had with Smith's accuser, Patricia Bowman. While Black had been able to review the statements prosecution witnesses had made to the police in the months before they testified, Lasch had no such prior statements from Smith. Still, as Victoria Tunsing writes in The American Lawyer, Lasch made that tough situation worse with her open-ended questions and her willingness to let the witness make speeches.
So you're calling Patricia Bowman a liar, aren't you?
Objection, Your Honor. Having one witness characterize another.
Sustained.
Wasn't that your public statement?
Wasn't what my public statement?
It's a damnable lie. Wasn't that an indication to the world that she's a liar?
Objection, Your Honor, once again.
Sustained.
Isn't that a way to make sure nobody believes her?
I objection again, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Didn't you carry through with your threat, Mr. Smith, and do everything you could to make sure nobody would believe her?
Miss Lasch, I've searched myself every night since March 29th to try to find out why Patty would make an allegation against me that's not true, that's going to destroy my family, destroy my career, possibly send me to jail for 15 years. I don't know why she would do that. I don't understand why anyone would do that.
Well, why would she do this? You say you've searched yourself. Let's go over a few things here. She hasn't taken any money at all for anything connected with this case, and you know that?
As I said...
Objection, Your Honor. There are no facts and evidence regarding that.
Okay. Well, you heard her testify to that in court, didn't you, Mr. Smith? That she's turned down all offers of money? So you
Yes,
know,
I have.
Okay, so you know she hasn't accepted any money whatsoever?
I heard her testify that she hasn't accepted money.
And
I heard her testify a lot of things that weren't true.
Are you saying she has accepted money?
I am not saying she has accepted money. All I'm saying is I don't know whether she has accepted money or not yet.
Well, she hasn't appeared on any television shows. She hasn't sought publicity.
No, she has not, although a number of her lawyers appeared on a number of television shows.
Mr. Smith, one of her lawyers appeared on a television show after you issued your public statement saying it's a damnable lie and said she's not lying. Isn't that what happened?
I did not watch Mr. Roth appear on the shows that he appeared on. And I don't know what his performance was like on those shows. I did not appear on any shows, nor did my lawyers at the time. All I did was respond to something I read about me, which was not true.
And now you're saying that this is... What is the motivation then? Why is she putting herself through all this? You say you've gone through this a number of times. Tell us what the motivation is.
Miss Lasch, I don't understand why Patty would accuse me of doing this. I don't understand why anyone would accuse me of doing what Patty Bowman has accused me of doing. I don't understand why somebody would destroy someone's career, attack someone's family. I can't understand that. I understand Patty Bowman has a lot of problems. She talked about her neck. She talked about her child. She talked about her relationship with her family. All of those things make me feel very sorry for Patty Bowman. But that's not the issue here. The issue here is I'm innocent. And how do you defend yourself from somebody who says the word rape over and over again? And when you ask them what they're talking about, all they say is they talk about my child or my neck or...
Okay,
and
well...
So that's the situation I'm in.
You brought up her neck.
And I'd like you to tell me how to deal with it.
According to Victoria Tunsing, whatever else a cross-examiner does, she should be sure to end on a strong note that will stick with the jury. Here's how Moira Lasch concluded her questioning of a man she had told the jurors was a violent criminal.
Do you have any explanation at all from your testimony as to how Patricia Bowman sustained the injuries that she had on March 30th, 1991?
I object to repetitions.
Do you have any opinion, based upon the photographs that you saw, the age of the bruises on her body?
Sure. I'm going to object to asking the witness to give an opinion.
Well, you did have some medical training, didn't you?
Yes, I have medical training. I graduated from medical school.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
At one point during Lasch's cross-examination of Smith, Judge Mary Lupo chastised the prosecutor for asking improper questions. This is not a course in trial practice, Lupo said. In her article in The American Lawyer, Victoria Tunsing writes, quote, "With all due respect, Your Honor, yes, it was." That's our video trial report. I'm Cynthia McFadden.